And we are live.
Okay. Hello, beautiful beings. I'm so happy, Patrick, to be with you and to share, yeah, just some ideas on abandonment. Because for me, it feels like a very present topic within myself. Because, yeah, I went deeply into shadows last month, but I feel it is a worldly topic that deserves more attention. So there were three questions that if you
Nice.
want, we could answer. You
Yes,
want
I would
that?
love to. Thanks for having me. And also hello from me, beautiful people who are watching. Yes, I'm excited to dive into the topic.
Yes. So I'm going to start with the first question because I feel that through the questions, we will just get on the flow that we need. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So let's do it. So the first question is, what is the difference between abandonment and a boundary?
Oof.
Yeah, I love that question. Because actually, that is also a question that I asked myself. Um, do you want to start?
Actually, you were already starting. I don't want to
Okay, I
interrupt.
was,
Yeah,
yeah. Okay, so I'm going to continue.
please.
So,
Thank you.
yeah, mm, for a long time, I thought that I would abandon people, I would reject them when I have a boundary. And when I tune into that question, I feel that it is really a fine line and it's a balancing act between a boundary and abandonment. But it feels like these are two different forces that are kind of creating abandonment or boundary. I feel that abandonment is more like it's kind of an outside force that kind of triggers. It's more in the outside, and a boundary like feels more from the heart. It comes from the inside. A boundary is
Mm,
like kind of knowing my worth, knowing everybody's worth, and then really standing for that worth, for that truth. So I feel about like a true boundary would mean that I'm standing in
mm-hmm.
my heart and I know what is right because it comes from the heart. And abandonment comes from more from the ego and is kind of triggered. It needs the trigger so that there is abandonment.
Yeah.
For example, like there were people that I attracted into my life um, that rejected me, whatever the reason, and then I really abandoned them. And that was kind of my boundary. I thought that was what that was my boundary, but um, in truth, it wasn't a boundary. It was just I was just doing the same thing they did with me, with them,
Mm, mm-hmm.
because they triggered in me that I wouldn't be worthy. They triggered in me that, and I thought, okay, like when I now raise or when I now put their like set a boundary, like they understand that they can't treat me that way. But it's not
Mm-hmm.
coming from the heart because it's like judging as well. It's
Yeah.
like you don't get my worth. I now have to show you how worthy I am. Boom.
Yeah.
And it's not. It does not feel like. Um, yeah, it does not feel like I know your worth and I love you and I know my worth and I love myself. So this is not a resonance. So now I'm kind of moving into the direction that resonates.
Mm-hmm.
Also like A boundary is more, it includes more of resonance,
Hmm.
and abandonment more of, yeah, like feels like a
It
prison. Yeah.
it needs a story before. Like, I love how you explain it because in the beginning I was like, as you said, it's a balancing act. It's nothing that is just obvious like this when you don't already dealt with both of them. And I think for me, abandonment always feels like there is already a story in there. I'm not good enough, or and with this abandonment, somebody else has a trigger or does something, and we, with our fear or with our trauma, we kind of agree on, yes, you just abandoned me, but you never really know that it happened. And as you said, when you abandoned the other person, it was actually you kind of being triggered and going to this fear and saying, yeah, I'm afraid that this and this will happen. So it's never really about us until we kind of say, wow, I am abandoned. So it needs kind of both ways to trigger each other and to go into this kind of, I'm not going to look at this aspect kind of thing, but it never feels satisfying or healthy, or you don't really see, even if you say, oh, the other person's so amazing, I don't want to be abandoned, I want to be seen by that person. In that moment, you put yourself kind of down, or you abandon another person. You say, ah, they're trash or whatever, or they're worthless or not worth me as much as me, but you put them down. So there's not a healthy, I see the light in both of us, and there is a boundary to kind of, because I'm standing in my center and I need these frontiers so we know how to kind of work in harmony. So I need to communicate it. And this kind of reminds you of your own boundary. There is no um, healthy growth. It's kind of like um, yeah, like a deserted place a little bit. I think with every person that I experienced that had abandonment issues, including myself, there was always this childhood kind of thing where a child thought they were abandoned because of some reason. Um, I don't know, the father having a second family, and there was even a try of abandonment, or the mother leaving, or the family moving around a lot, and the child losing a lot of friends. So that at some point the child kind of took it personal, kind of said, "Wow, they don't love me because of me, because of who I am. I'm not lovable." And the story kind of stayed there. And then later in life, when there's the same triggers, you jump so quickly into like, I'm abandoned, or I'm being bullied, or everybody's against me, or you have this kind of thing which now is there to protect you, um because you're kind of like, if I hurt myself, you cannot hurt me anymore. I'm gonna just go into this before you can actually, before it becomes true again, which is just the repetition of the trauma. And I think if you have found this inner worth, if you have found this inner light, if you connected to yourself, um, abandonment will not be an issue. It might be a program that still wants to be seen, but you see it for what it is. It's just an old story, and it's kind of being released. And you still have yourself. And then, no, this is a boundary. Like, you cannot project this onto me. Why do you want to do this right now? Is this maybe because you don't want to see this aspect from me inside of you, or you're not accepting this? And you can then help the other person and kind of bring them back, and make them feel safe as well, in them taking distance as well, without making it kind of your thing. Sometimes people push you away because they're afraid of what you trigger in them. And if you're aware of that, if you don't take it personal, you can still be in your space and still say, hey, it's fine. You can take your distance. That's okay. And make them feel safe in their, like, kind of knee-jerk reaction, and their kind of like a reflex. You can
Yeah.
see it for theirs and not make it like, oh no, they did that. It's, oh, being abandoned again. And I think that's how you feel if you really have this issue, kind of, if it's really yours, if you cannot relax into this trigger and see the other person for their behavior in that. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, I was just thinking about, when I was thinking about abandonment while we were talking, and you made this like pushing away, like this movement, I saw it like within myself, that actually the abandonment that I'm attracting, the people that reject me kind of abandon me. it is within myself. I'm doing this with myself. It is like as if there are two Sarahs in my
Mm-hmm.
heart and they're pushing each other away. Like, now you, no, I push you, no, I push you. And it's like, it is like it feels like the war within myself. Because, I really like journaled a lot on the abandonment that I was experiencing throughout my life, where always I thought, I don't understand why this is happening. Why am I attracting people so often that are abandoning me, rejecting me, for a long time? And it wasn't like my outer circle, not like my inner circle, like the people that were closest to me. With them, I had it. It was I attracted people that abandoned me, or I had people surrounding me that felt very abandoned by just by me being me. So it
Yeah.
was very, like this year I felt, okay, it's time to really look into this, because I was so far that I could say, okay, I'm not a victim of that anymore. It's not
Cool.
happening to me.
Yeah.
This is happening for me. So now I have
Wow.
to, yeah, so now I have to really dive deep and like really look deeper into what is happening within me, so that I see it in without me so
Mm,
often, and then
mm,
I pull it into my field so often. And I really, yeah, like the deeper I look into these aspects, or into this aspect, I see that it is, yeah, it is really, like you said, it is a trauma that it that happened, and that I still hold within my body, and that I'm fighting against. I'm fighting against that, as that trauma. I'm trying to,
mm-hmm.
I'm like, I'm holding it like this. I'm like looking at it like this. I'm holding it. I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying, you are not true,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm trying to push it away. And then I called the people outside, I'm worthy,
Yeah.
but it still is there, and I'm still pushing it away within myself.
Yeah.
And and then the people in the outside, they're like triggering me. I'm not worthy. And I mean, why is it doing something to me?
Yeah.
Why is it doing? Because I'm a part within myself is trusting them, and what they like is trusting into their perception of me,
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
trusting what they're seeing in me is true. Otherwise, it would
Yeah.
just be, I would just share so much love that it's not a thing for me.
Yeah.
I would just be above, kind of a grandparent, or like when I think about it, of a grandparent, like a grandmother or a grandfather,
Yeah.
it is the energy kind of that can hold it all.
Mm-hmm.
It's like this,
True.
it's like a honey, like you feel
Mm-hmm.
abandoned, come here, come here.
Mm-hmm.
It's illusion.
Yeah.
So, yeah, this kind of energy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
True.
yeah,
True. Beautiful. And I mean, how
yeah.
beautiful is this that people can trigger you like that if if you've decided to kind of do this in a work. I think it's a really beautiful thing, and especially if you decide to have deeper connections with people. I think abandonment will be something that will cross your path at some point. Um, I I what I like is when I did my kind of abandonment work, like last year I did a lot of it, and it went from childhood, just family, and going to relationships, which I wanted to work with, and I had to dive all the way back to kind of clear that up. Um, I understood that this concept that we have of personal abandonment is something that we experience as a soul, but through our inner child, as something that feels like this universe, or call it, infinite intelligence, God, has abandoned us as a soul that kind of, because it created us and it feels separate in this reality from the whole, and we have this experience of separateness. So we feel kind of cosmically abandoned, just like who are we, what are we doing, and we forget kind of that we are safe and that we can never not be part of it. And I think that is something that kind of repeats itself when we have this experience as a child, um, where we feel like it's so logical somehow. Yeah, of course I'm abandoned. Like I feel separate already. This all makes sense. This kind of fits into that story. So there is kind of a um yeah, like a preposition to go into that because there is this feeling of our inner child already that feels like, wait a minute, where's my soul family? Why do I feel so alone? Sometimes you feel like, do I even belong to this family? I don't even know. All these little feelings, they fit into that story so well. So if there is a bigger trigger or a story, it's so easy to kind of go into that um go into that story kind of, because the other story, that we're not abandoned, that we are loved, it requires of us a lot of love, like to let it flow in and to see through the eyes of love, and to see then with that also that a lot of people are just in pain and are just saying things out of pain, and that there is still love everywhere. And I think that is yeah, just a beautiful transformation. Then, because then you can allow yourself to be loved, and you don't use abandonment as a story anymore. You just accept kind of that this feeling of separation is just a human experience. um yeah,
Wow,
you
I
know.
love that.
Mm.
Yeah, it is just a human experience.
Mm.
That was something that I was telling myself today as well. It is a human experience, and that we kind of came down here on this planet to experience that as well.
Yeah.
So it is also like we already said yes to
Yeah,
experiencing this, you know.
which sounds crazy when you're here. They're like, wait a minute, I chose this.
Did we really do that, you know?
Yeah,
Really, I today I was sitting there, I was like, oh my God. It's like, you know, you're playing a game and then you really kind of start to understand what kind of game you're playing. You're like, really? You know, like
yeah.
these are the rules of the game.
Yeah.
But it is something different to really live in the reality of um yeah, of the heart, and to look through the abandonment and yeah, look from the heart onto everything. It is a difference between that and really being identified with the
True.
victim, with the
True.
abandoned and rejected person, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
True.
the one side is very freeing, and the other side feels like a prison. And
True.
I really, for a long time, I felt like in a prison. I was like,
Yeah.
why is this happening? You know, I'm trying to do the work. I'm
Yeah.
trying to understand all of that, but still it is repeating itself. And I had
True.
this beautiful, beautiful moment. Um, it was, I think it's 2 month ago, something like that, where I was, you know, I was that far. I would say that I had like a boundary. It wasn't abandonment anymore. Like I felt rejected, and I had this boundary of, you know, I'm not just going to you and like um serving myself to you as like a fish that you can now eat. I don't know what can I say, but you know,
Yeah.
like I'm not putting myself out there so you can do it more and more with me.
Yeah.
You know, I was like, okay,
Yeah.
this is not does not resonate, so we
Mm-hmm.
stop this. So I had to have the boundary. And then, but it felt like if it was very important for me, that boundary. And then as I started really seeing my light, as I started to really see how powerful I am in seeing who I am, which is not a victim, isn't abandoned, isn't not, none of that. Like the moment I gained this power within me, I strengthened who I truly am. I could really see the other people for what they truly are. And
Mm-hmm.
it's like as if like a lens of illusion just
Yeah.
off like the yeah, off like a glass. It's like just falling away. And you kind of see the world a little bit different. It feels like then I felt like, oh my God, I am so sorry for being trapped in this illusion for such a long time for myself, but also for the other person. Because I see them now. I see that they probably went through trauma as well, which we all do in this reality and on this
Mm-hmm.
earth, right?
Mm-hmm.
And and I have compassion with you, as I have
Mm-hmm.
compassion with myself and all the things I did because I was
Mm-hmm.
wounded. And this was just I was just trying to make the right decision, which was still an illusion.
Yeah.
But now, as I'm kind of seeing through the illusion and seeing you for who you truly are, I kind of feel so responsible to really stay in seeing truth,
Mm-hmm.
which does not even need a boundary anymore.
Mm-hmm. Happens
And
automatically.
that's
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's so
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's like you're kind of, yeah, staying in your truth is like it's flowing through you and out of you. So it automatically kind of holds everything away, which isn't on the same frequency or which doesn't match. So it doesn't need this like artificial boundary and this because that can sometimes be also fear based that you say, no, no closer because actually they have something. I mean, I understand why I did this because at some point I was hurt in so many ways that I didn't comprehend. So I just needed to isolate a little bit and kind of lick my wounds. But at a certain point, when you kind of have kind of this flow going on, you kind of just, it's all right. It's all right if there's chaos outside and everything is just because you know you kind of have this connection and nothing will come close, which doesn't happen for you, um, or which won't be on the same frequency and kind of yeah, meet with you in space and time to kind of create some beautiful experiences or teachings or learnings. So yeah, totally right. Totally right.
Yeah.
How was it for you? Because for me, to kind of get rid of abandonment, I kind of was anchored in who I was, and then I jumped into kind of how I want connections to feel like and to be. Kind of let this image penetrate in my being, and then from there I felt this emotional hole that was still full of these abandonment issues, and I just jumped in there and just kind of let it flow through me and let it just come out and just it happened over a few days, maybe a few weeks, a little bit, and sometimes I just plunged in there, and while I was feeling it, it was this fear that I always had, this illusion of really being abandoned, of really not being enough, of all these things that you tell yourself. So I always push them away a little bit. And I already told you, for me, these illusions are like Fata Morgana in the desert. If you see them from further away, they stay real. So if you jump into them, if you see them closer, if they're really an illusion, they kind of disappear right away. So this is just a Fata Morgana. And I think that's what happened with me. I kind of felt it and I felt through it. And while you're feeling it, it feels so real as well. While you're getting closer to it, it also feels so real because you're moving to it and it's still there. And but then at some point, it just loses kind of power and it just disappears. And the vision that you want to have on the connection becomes so much more real. I felt it. I had it in dreams. It was so real. Every other illusion or every trigger was not strong enough for that anymore because there was not this emotional power that I was keeping alive by pushing it away. And so that's kind of my way how I kind of cleanse these illusions. I just kind of anchor in myself and know like I'm gonna go through there now, and it might feel real, but I'm gonna take the space and I'm gonna ask for assistance, and I'm gonna go through there. And afterwards, it's the triggers don't have this power on me anymore. They're just, I can see them much more clearly, and then naturally, automatically, this inner light, this love, has much more power because it's me who gives it power by pushing it away. It's like, yeah, yeah, yeah. How was it
Um,
for you to kind of move through that abandonment? Because you said you hold your own light and then it was really easy to see that there was no abandonment going on, but how was the click moment of, okay, wow, this is not my story anymore?
Yeah. Yeah, because I was working with few parts within myself. I was also working with past life, so that like their past lives also
Mm,
revealed to me, and where I really see aspects that acted out lifetimes of abandonment. So I really
mm-hmm,
saw that, and I like, like this abandonment thing that I was carrying, or that I'm experiencing since since I'm maybe 7. I have like these abandonment things happening in my life, very constantly, very like present. I was always asking myself, like, why is it? So it was revealed to me that there were like past lives of me being the one abandoning.
mm,
So,
mm,
and I really stepped into these aspects. And it wasn't like, now tell me why you abandoned, what is wrong with you? It wasn't that judgmental perspective, but it was that very loving, what is it that made you abandon so many people? And what do you need within yourself to feel whole? What do you need to remember within yourself to feel the wholeness that you are, so that you don't need to abandon yourself by abandoning others?
mm,
So, and I really I think I retrieved, and I'm still in the process of doing that. I don't even know if this is at one point is completely done, because it's just a human experience,
mm-hmm,
just showing us more and more of it. But I feel that it is, yeah, it is not like jumping into the abandonment and try to with force and with this power, like trying to manipulate it or something. But it feels like it has to come from an effortless, compassionate way, which is very available. It feels, I would say, every time I was abandoning, there was this other voice present, was telling me, look, this is a path as well you have. But it felt like so easy. It
mm.
felt like, I mean, I learned in school, if you don't write good, good, what is it called?
Right?
Grades, you're going to be abandoned, because you then have to repeat a year
Yeah,
of school. Or
yeah.
you come late to school, you're abandoned because you stand outside, you're not coming in, and so on and so on. So we're indoctrinated by so much abandonment. So it feels like this is so normal. It is
This fear is
the
being used so often. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. And of course, if this is our reality from such a young age, of course, it feels like something normal. When look, like I just imagined, like I would be in school then, back then, and then someone says, "You're not coming into class because you're 2 minutes too late." And then I would say, I'm standing in front of the door. I'm like, oh, I have so much compassion with you, teacher, for being so trapped in the illusion of abandonment. And you're acting it out on me. But these were actually things that
Yeah,
when,
yeah,
I
hundred
mean,
percent, 100%. I
it
think,
would,
yeah,
yeah, yeah,
it's like always like that. It's like live by the gun, die by the gun. If you try to get somebody with abandonment, it's because you yourself you believe in that. You yourself you are afraid of abandonment. So if somebody tries to trigger that to push you out of the group or something, they're actually really unsafe in holding on to the group. And then if you show them that they're safe without the group as well, they will maybe be afraid of you because they see that you don't need them and they don't have control over you and stuff. But in the long run, they will admire it and you will be an anchor for them to also be like, whoa, you can swim without holding on to something. You can just swim in this universe, of love, of whatever. Yeah, that would be amazing. I sometimes fantasize about going back to teachers and be like, well then. Have a good day, sir. I'm gonna be leaving now. That'd be
All
amazing. Yeah, I think
right.
yeah, that
Yeah.
would be funny. But I mean, without that, I think we wouldn't have learned what we would have learned today. And I think, oof, even though I like sometimes wish I wouldn't have felt all these things now, it makes me be much more connected to people. And I know why they are afraid because I push it away as well. And now if somebody feels like that or is like that, I can just tell them like abandonment doesn't really exist. Nobody can abandon you. Abandon you. You are always part of the universe, and it's an illusion. Now let's see what you accepted as a lie with this abandonment. What you did. Not what anybody else did, but what you accepted kind of as an untruth, which you're still holding with this story. And then they have to just go to this fear of maybe this is true, and then okay, and then we look at it and then it's of course not true. And then I realize I'm actually a super cool person. People should love me. Oh my gosh, I love myself so much. All right. All right. Well,
Yeah.
people,
Love
if you're
me.
ready, yeah, love me. If you're ready, then just love me. Otherwise, I'll just love myself.
So beautiful, right?
Yeah, really. And it's so funny. It's like you can laugh about yourself. You don't take stuff personal anymore. It's so easy as well. To just see yourself as being part of it. And the only downside is that people might sometimes think you're arrogant or think that, I don't know, you're a little bit like too how do you say full of yourself kind of, which is amazing, which is just saying I want more of you, which is just showing that they cannot handle this independence and having your own opinion and not being afraid to just be yourself. And you know um I think in the end, if we are ourselves and people push us away for that, that's actually a detox for that moment. It may be in the future differently, but that's a detox. That means that it's a lot of energy for them to handle you and you're too intense for them or something. That's fine. It's totally fine.
Yeah, and it also shows that if this is the case, and if you follow residents, these are not the people that should be in your field. So it is very
Yeah,
clear for them. If they feel still attracted to you, they maybe you're a beautiful orientation point for them.
yeah,
But if it doesn't resonate with you, you just go on your way. You know,
yeah,
I had there was this moment when Mother Mary, like I felt her very bodily, physically, and she gave me these beautiful, beautiful codes. And one of them was that the moment you really truly see your light, which is your love, which is trust, which is being safe in every moment, when you're in this embodiment, when you feel all of that, everything surrounding you, no matter how dark it is, no matter how shadowy it is loved by you. And when it is loved by you, um, it will follow its resonance as well, because it
mm,
does not will be attached to you in a way that is weird, because you are so much in that light that you can't do anything but mirror that light onto them. And so when I am in light, I will not try to fix or change or manipulate relationships. When I'm in that light, I follow my resonance by knowing that every shadow
yeah,
surrounding me is just them having forgotten of their sovereign power, of their sovereign light, of their integrity, of their trust, of their them being safe. So
mm-hmm,
I will not me standing in that sovereign power, embodying it, won't change any shadow in the outside, any identification, because I trust so much into their sovereignty that I trust into their divine timing of, like
mm-hmm,
readjusting or
mm-hmm.
remembering actually what they
Yeah,
are. But
true.
I can just do it when I stop trying to judge them, manipulate them, like
Yeah,
then I'm still in that shadow aspect that they
true.
are that they are living, you know.
True.
So yeah, it is.
Beautiful.
And that's true. I feel that's truly like really stepping into that embodiment is it is what is freeing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's the solution to all of it, like boundaries, abandonment, everything with distance is just that. Like, just follow your own resonance, follow your own bliss, like go into that, find that. I feel like now that we talk about this abandonment reflex, this trauma response, it's just that. Just like now I don't allow myself to love myself, because they are pushing, they don't love me, so I don't love me. Or it's something where you take a trigger from outside and you take it as an excuse to abandon yourself, actually. Um, or it is a program that where you just abandon yourself. And when you just try to teach yourself that you always love yourself, automatically everything else will jump away. That's why you working so close with Mother Mary just is a fast path to kind of cleansing all these things out. Like you don't have to jump into this abandonment if it's necessary to feel these shadows. You will feel them, but still from the heart. So it makes it much more easier and makes it much more effective because you don't get lost while feeling it. You're anchored in the heart, and through that, everything just flows. So, yeah, beautiful, beautiful process. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Mm.
Mm.
Thank you very much.
I'm
Beautiful
curious.
being.
Do you still have these other two questions, or did we already answer them, maybe?
Let me see. Okay, so one was why do people feel abandoned by me when I communicate clear boundaries?
Uh-huh.
I think we answered that.
Yeah.
And then the other one was I think I'm rejecting my partner and I don't know why. Any ideas?
Hmm. Well, I think we also indirectly answered that, but I think we can just summarize them maybe a little bit more briefly for the questions, maybe.
Mhm.
The first one was, why do others feel abandoned when I set my boundaries?
Yeah.
I, I mean, we looked at this from our perspective of the person that sets the boundaries and from the other person's perspective actually as well. Like if somebody feels rejected, if you set the boundaries, it can be that just maybe very newly you learned how to set boundaries or you're learning how to set boundaries. And sometimes we do them very harshly. There's this lion face, we talked about it as well, where you kind of very harshly set your boundaries because it's important for you to learn it and to be consequent in it. Other people might be surprised by that and might be triggered, but it might also be that, yeah, you're pushing a part of yourself away and you kind of want nothing to have to do with a certain aspect in yourself and you project it onto them. So it feels much harsher in their way than just setting boundaries because there's an emotional unease about it. That might also be, and it might also be that just you are still not setting boundaries from the light and kind of have a bad conscience about setting boundaries. So you kind of are overdoing it to kind of suppress that bad conscience about it. But in the end, we're always connected and we will always be connected in this life or the next. And, when we have boundaries with people, they don't just go away and that you can get the unhealthy ones away, but there's still lessons that you will always be thankful for that everybody is kind of co-creating with us. So I think in the end, if like if you set boundaries from, hey, I love you, you don't have to be afraid without them having to understand it. Just sitting in your truth like this, like I love you, and you don't have to be afraid. I need to do this right now, or this is a boundary, or this is something I don't want to do anymore, or whatever. Um, I think then it's just their responsibility and, as you say, their sovereignty to just do the thing. And um, but yeah, there's reasons why people feel abandoned, and it's not your responsibility to change them in that. It's just an option for you to just be in your light and so remind them of their capacity to do so when they are ready to do so. Um, and the faster you cut that contract of you kind of being in an unhealthy relationship, the faster for them to learn the same lesson you just learned as well. Yeah. Satisfied? Cool.
Good. I love
Try to
it.
summarize this beautiful wisdom, I
So
guess.
good. Yeah. Of it's source. honey, is like is like you. It's just remembering. It's just remembering actually the truth, which is such a challenge in this reality.
Hmm.
But it's remembering. It's just remembering the truth, the truth, the truth. Thank
Yeah.
you so much, beautiful angel.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you want to share something else or?
Whew. Sometimes I think we always fly in these beautiful spaces and then coming back to the ground slowly. Maybe there's something that
Mm.
wants to be shared. um, Boundaries, abandonment.
It was, yeah, I
No, I don't
mean,
think so.
it was beautiful. It was beautiful.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't think so. This is amazing.
Yeah, I think I just had one vision that was coming in because I was writing this letter to a specific person of my life, like that is in my life. And it was like in this letter I was writing, dear, and then the name of the person. I needed you to dot 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 put in whatever. I needed you to accept me or love me
Hmm.
because I felt and then dot 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 abandoned my whole life. And then I like wrote and wrote and wrote, and in the end, like I wrote like just I wrote it out. Whatever came, I wrote it out. And in the end, it I really was lying there crying because I understood the abandonment of the other person was so needed for me. They were my biggest teachers, like, or this person was my biggest teacher to really see that it's me abandoning myself. It is me not
Mm,
allowing to stand in that love and to really look at everything through that love. So, yeah, so what I wanted to share, the last thing maybe that I wanted to share is that, yeah, these people that may that we think are, yeah, our enemies maybe, or that they make our lives very hard. Most of them, they carry like big blessings for
hmm.
us and teachings for us if we really are devoted and we take over responsibility to do the work and to really look deeper. It is all,
True.
yeah, it is all like
True.
it's a even if it feels so like the opposite of harmonious, it is the most harmonious thing. It is
Yeah.
like universe knocking at our door saying, look, this
Yeah.
aspect you're still not looking at. That's
Yeah.
why I'm putting it outside of you, because I think if I would show you inside, you would like run away and scream. So I have to show it outside of yourself so that then maybe you can first
Yeah.
finger point, and after you finger pointed a long time and feel very guilty
Yeah.
about finger pointing, you maybe start doing like, okay, probably it's also inside of me. And so it's just like life is so much for us. And
So much.
yeah, so
It's just
much.
our resistance to it what makes it so much hard. Actually, your story brought me to something I want to still share with the
Yeah,
everybody who watches this,
yeah.
and that is and what you say is a beautiful harmony and confrontation is like a beautiful marriage because if you don't know the frontier, like with the frontier confrontation, if you don't know where your boundaries are and that you found out mostly through, interaction with others, you will not know how to move harmonious through life. It's like if you see a watch or something, how it moves is a digital one, but how it moves inside, everything fitting perfectly into each other. If they don't know where they end and where they start, kind of from, interactions and yeah. what their roles are in this place, then it just, yeah, it's not harmonious. So you need to be able to go into confrontation. And then I have two stories which kind of are the most important ones and the pillars of the story of my kind of going through abandonment. And there was one which was the moment when I looked into heartbreak or a certain pain. And there was this woman that broke my heart. And then in this vision, I had this heart like this, and it was like a broken open fruit or something, like a coconut. And in there was this like juice, like liquid luminescent juice, and I tasted it, and it was just so tasty. So it was like, wow, thank you. It was like, if you never had done this, I would have never known how amazing this tastes. And thank you very much. This is everything I needed satisfying. So that was
I
kind of to
love
what
it.
the story reminded me of. And then the next thing was like, at some point when I felt I was through with these abandonments, or I was reaching a point where it didn't feel so heavy anymore to go through these abandonment motions, I had a dream where I was just going into the space. It was a beautiful spiritual space, and a woman was talking, like, in a resort or something. It was the ocean, and the people were just sitting everywhere a little bit. It felt important and amazing, but I was just walking through there as not as if I'm disrespectful, but just because I felt so comfortable to just be there. And I jumped in the water, swim to the other side of the shore, and there was a bar or something. Woman was still talking. He was like, "Yeah, Patrick, just take a seat." So I felt so welcome and I felt so myself, and I was just enjoying the water. And rarely I can, in my dreams, see through the water. So while I was swimming, I could from the water see the people sitting at the shore, kind of at this, um, yeah, let's just call it shore or something, at this bar. And then I just went up and had this drink at the bar and just, sat there and turned around. And then I saw this woman looking at me, and we just linked eyes, and it was just beautiful connection. But it was not this, oh, yeah, no, oh my God. It was just this, hey, how you doing? Like, this is just a beautiful connection. But it all happened from this place of, I feel so welcome. I feel so here. I feel so myself. I feel so loved. I feel so in my power. And then when this connection happens from there, that's a beautiful thing. That's not a needy thing. That's not a, oof, I need to kind of, hold you like this. That's when people can freely live and move. And um, since then, that's just me always going back there, always find that space again. And if I sometimes find myself trying to catch a person or get something out of something, I always remind myself that this is not how this dream felt so good. This dream didn't feel so good because this person wanted me to be there or was interested in me. It was a consequence of the other thing, because most of the time people actually are interested in us. Most of the time when there's big conflict, it's because there's also big emotion involved. But you will not be able to see it and to perceive it if you don't already see and perceive yourself. You will not be able to see the love from others. So this is something that I can recommend everybody watching this to just really jump into this abandonment with the truth in their heart that they are already loved, and just see that they're creating these experiences or co-creating them with others who kind of decided, mostly as a young person, that this abandonment is a truth. And so they didn't look at it anymore. You know what I mean? It's like if you think you locked the door and you go out and you come back, you're like, oh, I didn't lock the door, or you left the key in the, you thought you did. And that can happen. That's human, that's normal. But if you really look at it, it's not a truth. So feel free to love yourself. Yeah.
I love
So
it. I love it. I love it. I love you so much.
love
Amazing.
you too.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so
Yes.
much
Thank you so much
for,
for the session.
thank you so much, Angel.
I feel so honored to be invited by you to these beautiful sharings of yours. And every time I kind of get deeper into trust and love. And yeah, thank you very much
Thank you,
for this
love.
exchange, Sarah-Lia.
Thank you so much.